Right, let's get started. I think just for the interest of time. Well, yeah, welcome to another ACF Chat Fridays. We are back doing our sort of monthly schedule for these chats. We'll do the usual. We will record it. We'll put it onto YouTube for people who don't come, and we'll do a blog post on the ACF website with the YouTube video, and we'll try and cover what we talked about. Yeah, we've got Mike Davey from the content team here. We've got Matt, Anthony, and Phil from the engineering team. We haven't got, I don't think we've got a topic for this week or this month's chat. So, and there's a small amount of people here in the chat. So we'll kind of go with our usual, what are you doing with ACF? What are you struggling with? What do you need help with? Yeah, we've got, three of the engineering team that are very well placed to help with building with ACF or issues with ACF. So what we can do is we make use of the Q&A feature. If you can see that, I had to click the more button in the Zoom toolbar to make the Q&A pop up, or we can just use the chat, or there's sort of 4 or 5 of you. So please unmute, raise a hand or whatever, start chatting, start asking questions, and hopefully we can help out and take it from there. Haven't got any specific news. I think we were just chatting. We've already covered last time that we'd done the results of the survey. That was on the blog. We're still working on ACF 6.4. So the team are still working on the things that we've mentioned already for 6.4, which is HPOS support for WooCommerce, and other features that may go in 6.4 or may come after, like the block registration UI, the ability to register ACF blocks if you're using ACF Pro, using the UI similar to what we did for options pages in 6.2. And we're also working on improving the editing experience for content editors if they're using blocks, and making that experience really, really close to native blocks, but also even better. So right now we've got the developer experience of creating a custom block with ACF blocks is really easy. Block.json, a PHP render template file, that's great. But the editing experience is slightly out of sync with core. So we're making that even better, but also leaning into the simplicity of using ACF blocks for rendering or creating fields for the blocks and then editing them directly in the preview mode of the block editor. So yeah, some improvements coming as we planned, but yeah, very busy, lots going on, and the team are working hard. So yeah, that's my preamble. If anyone's got some questions, fire away. Yeah, use the Q&A, use the chat, unmute. Let's not make it a really awkward session of me filling silence or firing questions at the ACF team, although that could be interesting. But yeah, could just do an AMA with people and be like, start choosing engineers. Oh yeah, Christoph. Yeah, thanks for still going strong despite all the recent stuff. Yeah, we're still doing ACF. We're still going strong, and we're still working on the plugin that we love, everyone loves, and yeah, working hard to make it better. Zoom seems to have changed itself. Now I'm hovering over people. It keeps popping up with extra stuff.
That's a good question. Yeah.
Christoph, yeah. Christoph asks in the chat, one question: are there still plans to add custom icon library support to the icon picker field? Yes, is the simple answer. I've been using this field type for we've been using ACF on the advancedcustomfields.com website for new ways to build some pages, and leverage in the custom icon picker or the icon picker field type and kind of quickly hit that roadblock of actually, I really want to just take the 100 SVGs that the designer has given me with all the little custom icons, and I want the icon picker UI similar to the Dash icons experience where you can see all of the icons and you can select them and you can search for them. But I want to give it this custom icon set. So yeah, we are looking at ways to make it easy to, with a filter, pass it an icon set or an array of icons either from a directory or from somewhere else that then kind of creates this custom tab within the icon picker, because the icon picker field type has the Dash icons tab, the media library tab, and an external URL tab by default. But the ability just to add a new tab that looks like the Dash icons tab, but you feed it in your custom icon set. So yeah, we kind of want to use that anyway, and it makes sense. This is definitely an often requested thing. So yeah, we've got. I don't think we've got immediate plans to do it because I think we picked it up, didn't we? And we talked about it, but I don't think it's it's not on your something that you're working on right now.
Yeah, I did take a quick look at some of the next steps for that. But yeah, it hasn't bubbled up to the top of our priority list yet, but definitely still in the backlog.
Yeah.
I keep thinking that like there's some opportunity here that's like maybe it's not icons, maybe it's like bundles of media, like whatever general media. Like you could, and I keep thinking it'd be interesting if I could say like I could do a filter with the media library and be like, give me only the audio files and set that as like the array that gets passed into the available. I guess the question there would be like, oh, what do you represent those icons with? Um, but yeah, I keep thinking like there's some opportunity there because it's like we want this for a reason, and it might not be icons. It might be like generally groups of media to choose from that are like segmented.
Yeah, it's almost a better media picker, isn't it? And we've just
Yeah, a little bit.
the first iteration is the icons, and obviously the media library is select from the media library, but we can ignore that. But like, yeah, it's just a better way of selecting images or yeah, even audio. But you could just give it an icon in the array. Yeah, Christoph, you say would love to see that either from a folder or an array. Been using line icons a few times, and that's 10,000 icons. And yeah, so the select field gets to its limits. We may find we might get to the limit of the dash icon style UI. That so maybe yeah,
Pagination. We should probably include that
yeah, I know
because we're
exactly.
basically begging for it.
Yeah, and then we get scope creep, don't we? And we get this kind of like,
Yeah.
that the ability to do that then takes
I
longer.
don't think pagination would be too bad, but it's just like one of those things that we haven't even considered yet that we need to
Yeah,
do.
exactly. Because the dash icon set is what, 60 icons or less, maybe.
It is an interesting, like, the possibilities there, because I think what Ant is hinting at, and when I see that you have 10,000 icons, it's like, yeah, it's like, are we talking about, yeah, something bigger? I guess we have to like define the scope of it, but it seems like there's something there that's pretty interesting.
It's like a pseudo media library. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get, yeah, definitely we'd have search within the icon set because I think that's what we get for dash icons now. So you pass it in an icon, the name, the file path, and then yeah, the search would work off that.
Yeah.
Oh, we could do
Our search
that.
right now is it's a filter. Like, it's more like, because all the icons are currently on the front end already, and you're just narrowing down what's already there. Whereas with 10,000, you probably would want it to go hit the server with the search and come
Yeah.
back with only the one. So there'd be a bit more of a lift there.
We might need to like register icons or register, but then we start like recreating the media library at that point. Huh?
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
And that's the thing, isn't it? It depends on the use case a little bit because, for example, what we were doing for the ACF website, I think we had like 40 icons that were sort of custom icons that are being used on the front end. And that's not a big list. And it's, you know, it's a small amount. It's a bit like what Ken's saying. You've got a basic list of icons of 20, but then you go to actually, like Christoph wants, I want to integrate the line icons icon set or font awesome or something that is massive because it's grown up over so long time. And then so you've got to integrate all of that. And yeah, it's tricky because your client's probably going to only ever use like 20 of them, but you've got to give them the choice because the data could be anything and the icon should represent could be anything. So yeah, it's good to chat about that and talk about it with somebody who actually needs a real world example of it. Because yeah, I think when we were going down the road of like sticking some filters in to make the dash icon UI appear for your custom list of icons or custom array, we certainly hadn't thought about 10,000 and how that affects things. So maybe there's a V1 and there's a V2 there.
I'd be curious if this field is very useful and popular because of the need or the want in the community for folders in the media library. Because like wouldn't that solve everything? As if you were to say a media, I would do like a media field that only pulls from a certain defined folder.
Yeah,
Almost. It's close. It's not like it's rendering it like icons and nice and pretty like that, but pretty
yeah.
close, right?
But then I still think like the way that, and this is only just the way we were building the changes to the website, that the icons, all the SVGs were getting added to the assets folder in the theme and committed into the repo, like the Git repo. And I wanted to select from the file system. I didn't want to have to add, do that step of adding all those icons to the media library, which is a database record for each of them. It's like creating an attachment page, like that their theme assets rather than media content, but it's still making, giving those editors a better way to select it. But yeah, I mean, folders in the media library, aside from this conversation about the icon picker, is how much needed is that, and how long has that been asked for?
Yeah, forever. But like I always in my time working on media, it was like I would always go back and forth on this. Well, folders are just categorization, or like folders are just a tag, essentially. Like if you just flatten out your directory listing, you would still categorize them in like folder groupings. So yeah, so like I kind of like go back and forth on this one where it's like, well, maybe we just need better taxonomies in media or better ways to segment our media and filter them. And like that's all people are really asking for. They're not asking for literal folders on my desktop to drag files into. They're like, I need clean ways to separate this junk.
Yeah, yeah. There's interesting conversation just going on in chat about how Christoph says, yeah, you wouldn't want to just drop um, all the icons in the media library. That would kind of like pollute the customer's own images within the media library. You only want to have control over what they would select. Um, and then Ken says, yeah, I build sites for land developers and realtors. They love to upload 40 or 50 images per home listing. Commenter 500 to 1,000 media files. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. You could certainly have a way for media library to kind of be almost divided and categorized by the post that they were on. So you
A
could have,
multi-site almost
yeah,
setup
but
type
just
of
like,
thing.
if you've got a custom post type for, home and you add 50 images per home, you kind of only want to see the images. I mean, I guess, does the media library have that like filtering by attached to this post? But
Yeah, but it's not as granular as you would. It's not as like automatic as you would think it would be. Like it's I think it's the uploaded to. So if you uploaded a photo to the post, that's a sign, but it's not like this media exists on this post, this post, and this
yeah,
post. That is a feature that's been asked for a long time, and I don't think there's really anything technically holding it back. It's just a matter of like somebody needs to focus on it and finish writing up a patch and review it.
yeah, yeah, the media library is definitely, there's scope for love on the media library for sure. So yeah, in short, Christoph, we will try to do some um, better support for custom icon sets in the icon picker. What else? Did I miss any other questions in there? Ken, you say looking forward to using blocks in the future, especially for single templates. So I take it you haven't made the move to use ACF blocks yet, and you're still using more of a classic way of using ACF. Is there anything sort of stopping you for the moment?
For me, it's basically I manage about 700 sites, and so I'm very cautious in what I end up deploying because I'm going to have to support it for a couple of years till they usually redesign the site about every 2 years. So, also the time involved, I just haven't had time to do that. So,
Yeah, it's that type of big shift is you have to kind of sit down and think, right, it's going to be the next new site I do if I have time to do that exploration and change. And then you almost know that if it goes well, you're going to want to go back and do the other things, and you can't have the time to do.
correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I mean, the good thing with ACF Blocks is that obviously the block editor and the site editor changes quite a lot from a WordPress core point of view because the Gutenberg plugin changes a lot, and there's fast-paced changes and sometimes breaking changes that happen. But the way that the ACF Blocks feature works within ACF Pro is that we kind of test and insulate the ACF developers from those breaking changes that might happen in core and Gutenberg. So even there's definitely problems in the past where people have built custom blocks with React, and then a core update has just made those blocks kind of something go awry, but then the blocks don't load in the editor and they don't load on the front end. Whereas the ACF blocks that are created with ACF Pro are a bit more backwards compatible because we have to work through all of the changes that happen in core for major versions to make sure all the blocks features work. So yeah, when you do maybe move to using it, there's hopefully a little bit more security in knowing that things won't necessarily break going forward, and they're perhaps going to be easier to go through a site redesign process because you've got, the blocks are still going to be in place, and you can, reskin them or add new blocks that can then kind of be swapped out by the editors as they need them.
Thanks for that, Ken. Appreciate that. That's thanked us for or that said that we've got a solid plugin. Love to hear it. Still trying to find time to build ACF blocks for a live site, so this might be a silly question, but can we build ACF query blocks? So like I'm assuming that you mean like a query loop block, like or put blocks in a query loop.
Yeah, I guess query block or loop, query loop, where you can kind of point it at a custom post type, and
Yeah.
have it display the fields that you want it to display.
Yeah, so displaying the fields, that would be dependent on like the block that you have registered. So if you had like a design block, let's call it an author block, and you have that author block show up in a query loop. So let's say that you wanted to have that show up for every post. I believe that the query loop allows you to make like a template for each one that gets rendered. So then you would just include that author block as part of that template that renders the post.
Okay.
Now, as far as like registering an ACF block to the query loop, because like there are special blocks for query loops where it's like post title, where that block represents variable data of the title of the post in that loop or that
Right.
current item in the loop. I'm not sure how you register an ACF block. I believe it's just like a category or something that you put the block into to be part of those. And it should be able to pull any data you want. Another interesting thing that I've been meaning to write a blog post about, I've written all the code for, I just haven't like sat down and put it to words, is in the query loop, you can register custom actions. So let's say that like I have a post type and I have an ACF text field that assigns it a string of featured, or maybe it's just a Boolean that you check it and it's now featured. If I wanted to make that option exposed in the query loop sidebar, there are hooks in there that you could say only show the featured ones, where you check that box in the core query loop. And you check that box, and then that will make it so that the query loop will filter by that custom ACF property so that it will only display certain ones in that loop. So very compatible with it. It's just one of those things that not a lot of people have experimented in that direction, so we don't have a lot of documentation on it. But I do have a blog post in the works that it's like half drafted.
Oh, great. Okay, thank you. I do appreciate how the documentation has been growing over the past couple months.
Yeah, well, nice, Mike. You're on the call to hear that because you've definitely been spearheading the documentation, and we have been focusing on blocks documentation over the last sort of 6 to 8 months, I think. So yeah, that's good to hear. Thank you.
Yeah, and Matt just posted in the sidebar chat a blog post that we already did. I forgot Liam did this on how to build a business listing using ACF blocks on the query loop.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be curious too to hear like what your end goal desired result with that block would be. You just want to show like a bunch of something inside a block. Like you're say it's houses. You just want to show like 10
Yeah.
houses and
It's, yeah, like it's affiliated scientists, but yeah, I mean, kind of name, title, institution, department, that kind of thing.
and you like I guess one of my questions would be like, do you want the person who is in the editor to be able to like change the layout of each scientist, or
No.
do you don't want them to? So like one way I would recommend doing that then, if you're comfortable with PHP already, would be to sort of treat it the same way you would if it was a normal theme, which would be to just like write PHP to query the post type, like get posts or something, or WP query, get the list of posts that you want to show, loop through them, write the HTML markup with the PHP tags in it for each scientist, with the CSS tags and whatever in each element, and have that be your block render template. So it's all PHP, but you put that PHP in a block render template instead. Then nobody can change the design. It's not like they can move the title of the scientist or the picture to a different spot. You have all the control of that as the coder. But they can put that block, a single block that would show all of that stuff wherever that block is placed. And then you could, even in that block, you could have a selector that says which is the post type that you want to show in this loop, and then just use that value as your in your get post query or your WP query. Hopefully that made some sense, but like that's one way that I would approach it that I think makes it very simple, especially if you don't want to give people that kind of control. You can just do it all in PHP in your render template.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, we talked about it last time or the time before,
Yeah.
a little bit, but I guess, yeah, I mean, I keep getting pulled away to do other things, and then I come back to it and I'm like, where was I? Um, so I have a new employee starting in a couple weeks finally, so that will help hopefully. But I guess like so far I'm having trouble with getting like it's the only FSE site I've ever built. I'm having trouble getting it to kind of like see that render template, like even when it's in like the loop templates and then the single and um,
I
so
see.
that's why I thought maybe I just need, a way of using a query loop block.
Gotcha.
I think that
I
might
think
be
this
the
is
way
one
to
of
do
the few
it.
times, to me personally anyway, I think it's one of the few times where a query loop might just be easiest. Phil, I can see what you're saying. Definitely useful if you want to kind of lock things down, but if there's not a need for that, yeah, I think just creating a query loop with a single with an ACF block that just kind of it gets the context from the query loop, retrieves the fields, displays the fields for just that, you know, associated scientist, I think it was.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we're building a block that's supposed to live inside a query loop block is what you're saying, Matt.
Yeah. At least
Yeah.
that's what I
No, yeah,
Yeah.
that's that's cool. Yeah. It's a cool idea.
And there are the hooks are there to get in the middle of that query loop, like right in the point that you need to change that data. So it's very easy to get in there and do that. It's just one of those things that I probably wouldn't want to do that like on a page 1,000 times, you know, like that's one of because
Right.
it's a lot of data to loop through.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we're talking maybe 20.
Oh yeah, that's the way to do it then. Is just build a query loop and block and put that in there and have it query all of those fields. Yeah.
Yeah, like my approach was to replace the query loop block. I wouldn't use a query loop block. It would just be my block and the query would be all in the PHP. But then
Right. Okay.
you could also just make a query loop block and then make an ACF block that uses that context from the query, like Matt was saying. So yeah, there's two different and both great approaches there.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Any more questions? It's been a good session so far. Covered quite a bit. Alrighty, well, maybe we can wrap it up early. I know it's Friday afternoon or Friday, different times for different people, but it's Friday. So maybe, yeah, we'll call it. And we will see everyone. Actually, when is the next time scheduled? Let me just get that right because I've got holiday times. Is it Friday the 3rd? Yeah, I think that's right. Well, yeah, we'll see everyone in the new year. So hope everyone has a good holiday period. And yeah, thanks for coming. See you next time. Bye.
See ya.